For the last 3 decades, these races have allowed this sport's best to battle at the summit of their season.
And Skywalker, an upset winner with Pinkai aboard. And it's Hollywood Wildcat. Eddie Della Hussein dropped his whip, but it looks like he got the victory. And it will be Lure once again, overcoming trouble on the first turn.
We enter these battlefields once again, which lay out the highest gauntlet for each group to face.
Under the line, it's half final. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish. Man, oh man, Della, what a day. Personally Perfect wins by 2.
Measuring these by large sums of money involved, or the glitz that lies at the wire, does not provide a true definition. Instead, the accomplishment of these tests are measured in the difficulty in clashing with its parts.
And what a brilliant filly is this! Golda Cobra in an awesome effort, outrun Kempteville to win it well. Midnight Luke could not have been more impressive. He wins with his ears pricked in the end. This is unbelievable! Zenyatta! What a performance, one we'll never forget!
For 30 years, these days have brought together only those that have proven themselves up for this. The most difficult of challenges. Only the fastest have arrived at this day, but yet only the swiftest of those will be dubbed champions, putting their names next to greatness.
California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby!
And it's going to be Tonalist.
Shared Belief going to just keep his unbeaten record. Yes, he has. Shared Belief, 7 for 7.
Why do these days mean more than any other? Why does a season of tests come down to just one? Only the greatest are allowed on this stage. A stage that in seconds can wash away past failures or successes. A stage made simply of turf and dirt. A stage we know as the Breeders' Cup.
Skywalker is still there, carrying a huge upset looming here. And they're coming down to the finish, and it is pleasantly perfect.
Ravens Pass and Frankie Dettori have won the class. Zenyatta! What a performance, one we'll never forget.
Brought to you by Fasig-Tipton, home of North America's first thoroughbred auction company. Fasig-Tipton, get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, the best online wagering experience in racing. Visit TwinSpires.com to sign up today. Well, right now it's a soggy stage here at Santa Anita Park. The rains did move in as expected. We anticipated them being on their way out, but they're coming back into the area here in Arcadia, California. As you can see, the track team out there keeping a close eye on the dirt track to see how it will play today and what they will have to do to it. I have no doubt that this race will be playing fast when it comes down to post time for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I truly think that that might be the case when we're talking about the races early, even though we do start on the dirt course with the races being taken off the turf. As we welcome you to Breeders' Cup Saturday, Scott Hazelton alongside Richard Migliori. We're not normally talking rain when we're talking Breeders' Cup here at Santa Anita, but that's the story right now.
No, yeah, absolutely. A bit of a surprise to me, but even the damp weather can't dampen our spirits. We've got 9 of the best races and the best competition from around the world, and I'm excited. We had 4 yesterday, 9 today, a baker's dozen of Breeders' Cups.
And if yesterday was an indication of what's to come today, get tied on, because that yesterday races were incredible. You go back to the efforts we saw from the likes of Golden Sense and also Untappable. Hootenanny was brilliant in the juvenile turf, but as you closed out the show yesterday, Lady Eli might have stole the show with that turn of foot.
The way she exploded through the opening at the top of the stretch and just basically widened with every stride, that was about as impressive a 2-year-old performance as I've ever seen on any surface.
So 4 in the books. We have 9 left today. But going to Untappable in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, you were just saying to me how brilliant the ride was from Rosie Napravnik.
Rosie Napravnik really gave this filly some ride. I know some people made mention that they thought Untappable ran into Ayatopa there. Actually, Ayatopa stepped out, and Joe Talamo grabbed her and made her jump to her right lead. So it looked very dramatic, but Untappable never strayed from her path. So I think people were looking at maybe a little bit from the wrong angle, but Untappable, great ride. brilliant training job by Steve Asmussen to keep this filly in peak condition from the Oaks all the way through the distaff.
And we checked with the racing office. Winchell doesn't have to pay double jocks mount fee with Rosie and Child, so we did confirm that.
Well, does that make her baby the youngest grade winner of all time?
Maybe. Certainly on the Breeders' Cup stage. I can't go any further than that, but what a story with Rosie announcing that she will retire following today's races. She's got 4 mounts left here today at Santa Anita Park. But time now for our Pursuit News update, brought to you by OCD Pellets. Go to OCDpellets.com for more info. We turn to Kaiten Bradar. Kaiten, yet another defection for this Breeders' Cup 31.
We do indeed, Scott. It was just announced that Calculator is out of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with a sore foot. That news coming via Twitter. DRF's Jay Privman reporting the sore foot, but he's out. That's the only defection we've heard so far. There may be more, though, because of changes on today's card. Already, races 1 and 3 are off the grass due to the weather. That wasn't a huge surprise so far, with both those scheduled down the hill. And right now, behind me, the track has just been opened. Now, that was a contrast to a little earlier today. I spoke earlier about 6 o'clock this morning Pacific time with Dennis Moore. He had been in touch with the weather agency and said that they expected some light showers to pass, but in the morning the track was sealed. We got about ½ an inch of rain overnight. You can see the track crew's been walking it consistently to check out the condition. The fact that they just opened the track to me tells me they expect this light rain to pass pretty quickly within the next 30 minutes. They said they would make a decision later depending on how much rain was accumulating based on this rain that's falling now as to the later turf. As for Asmussen, all smiles this morning.
From her post position, she did cover quite a bit of ground. You know, Rosie has a tremendous amount of confidence in her, and I think that it showed when she pulled her up there at the quarter pole. Nothing but excitement, and she ran extremely well to the wire.
And were you surprised with Rosie's announcement?
Well, yes, absolutely. You know, true blessing, being fortunate enough to have 3 lovely kids. You know, the best is yet to come. I did speak with Ron Winchell and David last night after the race, David Fisk, and we're going to give her a little bit of a break and then try to map out a campaign for her next year that would culminate with the Breeders' Cup. It's extremely exciting. You know, she is, I think, stamped herself a true champion yesterday. The year that she's put in, you know, when the calendar year starts, your goal is the Oaks, and for her to accomplish that and then to finish out the year and beat a nice group of older mares here in the Breeders' Cup, extremely proud of her. To be along for the ride and part of the process is even more gratifying.
That was yesterday. On to today. Windstar Farm with several runners, perhaps none more important than the 1-2 punch in the Juvenile.
You know, I think the Juvenile probably, as far as Windstar Farm, what we try to accomplish is making stallions the mile turf with tourist or the Breeders' Cup Juvenile dirt and possibly a championship on the line. It would probably weigh more towards the Juvenile. But as far as, you know, Daredevil or Carpe Diem, it wouldn't matter at all.
Now, a couple reports. Marty McGee of DRF putting on Twitter that the turf course has been rated good. We'll update you with any more track conditions as they become available. And again, no decision or word about the Breeders' Cup sprint on the turf, that being the downhill course. The concern there is horses crossing over. It can sometimes get a little slick, and they want to be cautious in terms of racing down there. But again, not a total lot of rain that has fallen. It was very firm going into this. We are going to have a lot more to cover. A couple reports on some horses from yesterday, and we'll, of course, look at the Classic and the keys to the Cup when we return.
Shift our attention to the Breeders' Cup Classic, 8:35 Eastern Post Time. It's race number 12 on the card with $5 million on the line. Big Casanova is out of this race. He took his talents to the marathon yesterday and for Peter Miller. And so we take a look at this field starting from the inside with Prayer for Relief for Dale Romans. Irad Ortiz looking for his second win in this Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, Irad broke through yesterday. Preferably has looked great here all week. He breathes well, he's galloping well, his coat is good, everything's on go for him. He just has the feeling to me, Scott, of a horse that's just a little bit a cut below the best in here.
He's winless in 2014. Here is Cigar Streets. He's made some of the best impressions this week, period.
Yeah, I'd have to give him the horse of the week as far as how he looks on the track every single day. It looks like Groundhog Day for him. His coat's perfect. He's just resplendent. His head bowed, pulling the rider out of the tack, and he really wants to get it on.
And he is fast enough on the numbers. He earned a big number in the Homecoming Classic. Here's Imperative for George Papadromo. Shocked him at Charlestown, but has done little since.
Has done little since. Would need a lot of things to go right for himself and a lot of things to go wrong for other people, in my estimation, to be competitive here. Like all these other horses, I mean, at this level, most of them look good training.
Moreno gets Javier Castellano in his 23rd lifetime start.
And he's going to have company on the front end with Bayern. And Moreno does his best work from the lead, and he's drawn to the inside, so he's committed. He's a pace factor, but will he be around late?
Joe Talamo's hoping that VE Day is around late in the style that he was in the Grade 1 Travers back in August at Saratoga.
VE Day has trained better every day here. His first day I thought was okay. Second day was better. Third day was better. And he actually really came on this week here. I think he's enjoying the California weather. He gets over the surface really well.
Here's the favorite, Shared Belief, the undefeated son of Candy Ride, 7 for 7.
And how can you knock him? I mean, he's an undefeated champion, and I just was wondering if maybe the last race didn't take a little starch out of him. I didn't think his breezes were terrific at Golden Gate. He's looked a little better to me since he got here, but I'm just not seeing that pop I want to see.
Bayern, let's not sleep on him. He's been brilliant when he shows up in his races for Kaleem Shaw and Bob Baffert.
Well, and he should be. I think he's naturally faster than Moreno, so you know he's going to be up on the pace, but it'd be interesting to see if they decided to stalk the way he does in his morning trials.
It would be interesting to see how the 3-year-old picture would shape up if he was able to win this race. Would he end up being the top 3-year-old in the season? Could he end up being Horse of the Year? Here's Zevo. Chad Brown sends this 5-year-old out. He's won 9 of 17.
I love Zevo. 16 for 17, 1, 2, 3. He shows up every time. If there's a pace meltdown, I think he could be the most likely benefactor.
A la Don't Tell Sophia yesterday, he came rolling in the distaff. Here is Toast of New York. It'll be the swan song for jockey Jamie Spencer.
It would be nice to see Jamie Spencer go out with a win. This is a real nice horse. The question is the dirt. Now, they said he was trained on the dirt. He looks like he gallops well on it. It's just you don't know until they go fast on it.
Footbridge for Owen Hardy and Godolphin Racing. I think he falls under the category with Prayer for Relief. I think he's maybe just a crack below the better horses in this field.
Yeah, I mean, he had everything go right for him in the Austin again when he was beaten 2.5 lengths to Shared Belief. The problem is Shared Belief ran about 100 yards further than he did.
Tonalist, the horse coming in from New York, he has done nothing wrong as of late, including winning a Grade 1 in the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
He looks tremendous. I feel like this horse has actually blossomed into the fall of the year. I think he's doing as good as a horse can do right now, and I think you're going to see Tonalist do something special today.
An offspring of Tappet could sweep the Distaff and Classic if Tonalist is able to come home the winner in today's Breeders' Cup Classic. There's a look at Candy Boy, another Candy Ride. He's a horse that's run some big races but needs to step up and run his biggest ever.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, the promise he showed early in the year, he's never really kind of broken through and
taking
realized
the next step.
it. You know, he needs to take that next step.
As does California Chrome. Not necessarily has to take that next step. He has to go back to some of the steps that he has taken earlier in the year.
I think he's back to the horse we saw right before the Kentucky Derby. His coat looks great. His weight looks great. His energy level. And I think he's really sitting on a big race.
And Majestic Harbor rounds out the Breeders' Cup Classic. Needs to get back to the Gold Cup form where we saw him win by 6 1/4 here at Santa Anita in Grade 1 company.
Well, he runs that race. He's going to turn a lot of heads, and then I think it's party time.
No doubt it will be party time. What did McCarthy tell us? Just go show up at the barn, and we'll see where we go from there.
Exactly.
What a day it could be for Sean McCarthy and selfishly the team here at HRTV. But nonetheless, a great field in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So competitive. So many different storylines when you talk about this race. Horse of the Year on the line. 3-year-old of the Year is on the line. So looking forward to the 1 1/4 Breeders' Cup Classic here at Santa Anita Park. But it's time now to shift our attention to Christina and Millie, who have found a little cover in the HRTV studios with the rain here in Southern California to discuss the keys to the Cup for the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, Scott, that's right. We came inside to shield ourselves from the weather. It is still drizzling out there. We'll keep you updated on the conditions here in Southern California. Back in the HRTV studios, I'm joined now by Millie Ball. Millie, we had a second there just to see all of the horses kind of running through in the morning, and you've been out every morning. Who has really commanded your attention and made you look at them in terms of looking like standouts here?
Definitely Cigar Street. He's the absolute standout for me in the Classic. I mean, every day he's looked better and better and better. You can't have a horse physically looking that good through his coat and his weight and training that good to not run well. In fact, we saw that yesterday. The better European horses ran the better races over here. But the other horse that's looked really good to me is California Chrome. I actually think he's traveling over the surface, galloping here in the mornings better than he did when he was working his way up through the Santa Anita Derby. So I'm encouraged about that. His weight looks great. He just looks like a really happy horse. So they'd be the top two horses for me on looks.
Yeah, as you heard from Richie, California Chrome, he almost looks better the second time he goes around. He just gets stronger and stronger with every gallop, every turn in the mornings. Time now for our Keys to the Cup, brought to you by Pin Oakstead. For more information, you can head to pinoakstead.com. And Millie, we turn our attention to the likely favorite, the undefeated Shared Belief.
Shared Belief, he's run 4 times this year, and he's won all 4 of those races. He comes into the Breeders' Cup Classic undefeated. Don't forget that when he won the Awesome again in his last start, September 27th, he ran 66 feet further than Fedbiz, according to Trackers. Undefeated in 7 lifetime starts.
Shared Belief out on the track in the mornings. Millie, he's a horse that doesn't really draw your attention until race time.
He's a very lazy horse. They said they'd prefer to gallop him in company. That's how lazy he is, and that's why his works look the way they do.
The clash of the 3-year-olds this year, California Chrome and Shared Belief, they came to the Classic in very different paths.
Didn't hook up because of circumstances. You know, Art's horse was doing well, and he went on and did some great things. And then my horse had to overcome a hoof injury, and luckily for us, we got that thing fixed up, and it doesn't bother him anymore. And then we started our campaign, and then you know, it's the end of the year, and pretty amazing that that 2 horses like that could end up being in the same race, because they took entirely different paths to get there.
Different paths to get here, so now it's up to the riders to take over. You know, Mike Smith maybe a little bit more relaxed into the Classic than he was into the Awesome again with some of the tactics that were employed there. But California Chrome and Victor Espinoza, he still really has to worry about the other riders today, doesn't he?
I think so, a little bit. I definitely think that Shared Belief will be the target. Everybody will be riding their race and making sure that they're seeing where Shared Belief is in the race. With California Chrome, though, I think it's going to be imperative that Victor works his way outside. That's a horse, as you said, when we see him gallop, he loves to get into his rhythm. If he's bottled up inside and he can't get into that stride, I think that's not to his benefit. So they'll want to, I think, work their trip out so he's forwardly placed and can get in that rhythm and keep galloping. And remember the turn of foot he had in the Santa Anita Derby? If he can do that, he can win it.
Great post form this afternoon. Post 13 for California Chrome. Could actually be very lucky for him. We'll step aside for a quick timeout here on Pursuit of the Cup. When we come back, it is time for the International Report. Millie will stick around, and Fanny Salmon will join her to take you through the Euros. Who can take down some of our races this afternoon? Of course, those on the turf course, and maybe even in the big one in the Classic with Toast of New York. The International Report is coming up next.
Brought to you by Phasic Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. Get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, your home for online wagering. Visit TwinSpires.com and join today for a $100 sign-up bonus.
Welcome back to Pursuit of the Cup, and it's time now for our international report. Well, as you heard earlier on in the news, the rain fell last night, and it's something that's really concerning the Europeans. They've come from England, where it rains most of the time, and here they are in sunny California looking for the firm turf course and getting rain on it. Fanny, in talking to some of the connections, what do they think?
Well, they're thinking it's kind of unfair, but also they are realistic, knowing that it would take actually a flood for the ground to actually change so much here. So everybody's been optimistic.
Well, let's start with the Fillies and Mares turf division, and among the field, of course, we have last year's reigning champ in Dank. And Dank has been installed as the 5-2 favorite. It seems as though the morning line maker and everybody who was on Dank last year feels that she's going to run her race.
And we had a chance to speak to her trainer, Sir Michael Stout.
Yeah, I mean, circumstances have prevented her from running since Royal Ascot, but you know, she's not difficult to get ready, and she loves it. She loves it. She's taking everything in, and she's ready for some action. So yeah, very hopeful.
Just the Judge has been looking really good all week. She's back at her best. She's a classic winner, having won the Irish Guineas and had a tough campaign that spring of a 3-year-old season. She's loving the new continent, I think. She was 3rd in the Beverly D. She went on to win the EP Taylor. Has her trainer, Charlie Hills, told you, Millie, he's really happy with the way she's bounced back from that race.
And she is supposed to be going on to the Tattersalls December sales after the race. Secret gesture for Rafe Beckett. Got an opportunity to chat with him this morning. He says that this filly is one of the easiest fillies he's ever had to train. She just does everything, not a bother, and that's one of the reasons why he brought her here. You look how consistent she has been. She finished finishing second against the boys in the York Stakes. Loves a left-handed track. Loved it at Epsom and at York, so she should really enjoy it here.
Well, Fisselon does not have the form that the other Euros may have in this race, but she's experienced and mature, and look at her yesterday as she was training down from the chute. They were trying to actually show her that path of the dirt, and I think we're going to see her go over it, maybe not, but she went it fine, and they didn't want her to be surprised as she faced it today in the Fillies and Mares turf.
It's interesting, years ago they actually used to allow horses to school over the dirt course, but it caused many of them to get in a habit of actually shying in it, and then they would replicate that in their races, so they stopped having schoolers coming down the hill.
But she did it yesterday. I saw her going over it, and she went over it fine. So
we'll look at the turf sprint. That'll also be coming down the 6.5 hillside turf course. And just the one Euro in among the field, and that's Casper Nacher, although you could say no, nay, never with his experience over at Royal Ascot and in Deauville is a Euro, but trained by Wesley Ward. Casper Nacher, 10-1 on the morning line, and David Simcock talked to me about this horse, and he went to stud this horse, only got 3 mares in foal, so they brought him back to the racetrack, and he said it took him a while to get back into form, but he's just coming around right now. He's coming off a race 13 days in between, and he's another horse. I've just fallen in love with this horse. He's looked better and better every day he's trained. Great personality.
That's the thing. Some of these horses, when they're coming to the Breeders' Cup, they just show it out of their skin.
And then we have the turf division that'll be going on later on. Telescope at 7-2. Flincher is the favorite at 3-1 on the morning line for Juddmonte Farm. And of course, Sir Michael Stout with Telescope drawing the inside post position. So Michael, he is a genius at this sort of thing, preparing a horse for a particular race. There has been no wavering with Telescope. He has been coming to the Breeders' Cup all along. And here's Sir Michael Stout on his 7-2 morning line choice.
He'd had a hard race in the King George. York was a little short of his best, an extended 1.25 miles, and decided, you know, keep away from the big boys in the Arc, and let's bring him here strong and fresh. So the horses come here in the winter, and they always look well at Santa Anita. I think it is the temperature and the climate. Yeah, they're all looking well. So is the opposition.
Well, Flincher is one of these horses who has come here specifically for the good, if not the fast ground. He's bounced back beautifully from his second place in the Arc. It's been an ongoing joke with traveling lad Richard Lambert, who's been traveling with Flincher, and he says every single time the horse is ready to race, it rains the day before. He actually said, I could take him to the desert, it would still rain. He actually went out this morning in the dark, this is from yesterday, and he said, I'm feeling relieved. He saw the ground and he was happy with the the way it looked, even with the oncoming rain. He'll be fine.
And the mile, maybe one of the most competitive races on the card today for Breeders' Cup races. We take a look firstly at Toronado. And Toronado, I think, as Dank was last year, the absolute standout on the track. She really captured everybody's imagination, and I think Toronado has done the same. The only time he's raced left-handed was the time that he displaced, and he had throat surgery following that. Since then, in the Queen Anne, he won that race, beating Anna that day, and finished second to Kingman and Charm Spirit. Two very, very good horses. Kingman absolutely out-sprinted him, but he does have a devastating turn of foot if you look in the Sussex Stakes.
Absolutely. Veda is an improving filly. I like her very much. She had a nice break at the farm this summer. She's just had one race back, a comeback race. She was a very solid second to Solo, one of France's top milers. Alain Drouet-Dupré had a chance to speak with him yesterday. He was absolutely happy with her. She will be on first-time Lasix, and I think at 12-1, she's a great value.
And Tradestorm, actually in the field, the only Euro coming off a win, and that was achieved outside of Europe at the Woodbine Mile in Canada. But David Simcock said that Tradestorm, he really would need this race to stop in front of him in order for him to win. He's one of those horses, he said, he will run his race and he will probably be a part of it, but he needs a very fast pace and horses to back up.
And I've been trying very hard not to be too biased, too blinded by my liking for Anodin's family, of course, Goldie Cover's full brother. You see him, he went out early this morning, but look at him yesterday. He went blowing, as Freddie always does with his horses before the race, and my heart skipped. I was trying not to be on the Anodin bandwagon, but after seeing him like that, I just have to cheer for him. I'm not ashamed of it.
No, if you like a horse and the way he looks, it just helps you out there, Fanny. I agree with you. Don't waver. In the Classic, just one international contender in the Classic, and that is Toast of New York. The last time we saw him was in the Pacific Classic, running second to Shared Belief. In talking to the Euros about this horse, they said at best he really would be a Grade 3 winner on turf. So not giving him too much respect in regards to his European form. The fact that he finished closest to Shared Belief in any of Shared Belief's races, he's undefeated, I think is impressive. But Toast of New York, to me, I think is a synthetic horse or a turf horse. And had Maidan been all-weather in March of next year, they would have bypassed the Breeders' Cup and gone to Maidan.
Well, it's always hard to know until they actually race on the dirt. And we've seen some horses here do really well that we never thought had Group 1 caliber in Europe. So you could have a surprise with him. You never know.
On the day today in the Breeders' Cup races, Fanny, who do you like best? Who do you feel most confident about?
That's a hard one. I will have to go with Flincher.
With Flincher, okay. And for me, Toronado. He looks the best of the European horses, an absolute eye catcher. So I've got to go with my gut instinct and go with Toronado. Well, thank you for joining us, Fanny, and for all your work all week. We've really enjoyed it here on Pursuit of the Cup. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll have the Juvenile Fillies, the Filly and Mare Turf, and that Filly and Mare Sprint division for you with Scott and Richie.
Brought to you by Phasic Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. No one has a longer pedigree. And TwinSpires.com. Wager on the go with TwinSpires mobile smartphone app. TwinSpires.com, where players win.
You know, Richie, if something wild happens in this 14 Hands Winery Juvenile Fillies, Lady Eli could be receiving a lot of votes for 2-year-old Filly champion in 2014 based on what she did yesterday.
Now, I agree with you. If some long shot or some real surprise horse wins, that performance just caught everybody's attention, and she very well could get a lot of support.
Wouldn't be a surprise to see Angela Renee run back to her Grade 1 Chandelier Stakes victory, as she already has a race over this track for Todd Pletcher.
I like the race over the track factor. I like that she has that two-turn victory, and I think that's what she wanted all along. She was sprinting, and she was okay at it, but she wasn't as comfortable going long as what she wanted, and She gets Johnny Velasquez today for his main man, Todd Pletcher.
Puka has been part of a lot of discussion here at Santa Anita based on the way that she's looked on the course.
She's looked amazing. Her last win was tremendous. She didn't want to sprint on the dirt. She didn't want the grass. She got to go long on the dirt, and she crushed them, and now she's first-time Lasix for Bill Mott. I think this filly's going to be very tough to beat.
And look who beat her 2 back, Lady Eli, on the grass course at Saratoga. Conquest eclipsed post position number 4 for Conquest Stables and Mark Cassie.
Now, ran really well against Angela Renee. If she can go forward, that was her first start going 2 turns. Maybe she can narrow the gap to Angela Renee. And I really think that Mark Cassie's horses are going to break through at some stage, and it could be this filly. I think she's going to be very, very competitive.
I'm having such a hard time with this race that I want to like 4 of them. Seeing now that Lady Eli, her form shows up in Puka, it's taking me towards her. I like Top Decile. It's a really hard race for me to sort out. I'm trying to avoid Angela Renee. I wasn't crazy about her workout that we saw in company the other day, but this is a very tough race to really pinpoint one horse, Rich.
Well, for me, I'm actually going to go to Puka. And because of just what you said, Angela Renee only beat her a length and a half. Look what Angela Renee just did to the best 2-year-old fillies assembled on the grass this year in the States. I'd have to think that the way she won going a mile and a 16th on the dirt at Belmont is going to translate to good things here on the dirt at Santa Anita.
Let's move over to the grass course for the mile and a quarter, $2 million Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, as Dank is looking to join Ouija Board as another 2-time winner of this race. Ouija Board won it in 04 and 06, and she is 5-2 on the morning line and looking as good as she did a year ago.
I know a lot of people kind of are cold on her because she only had 2 races this year, neither one of them were very good performances. I think she's looked tremendous here, just as good as she did last year. And I don't think Michael Stout kept her in training to bring her here because he didn't have confidence in her. I'm sure she's here because they like her. And Ryan Moore didn't win a race yet, but he will before the end of this Breeders' Cup.
Stephanie's Kitten, top American Hope, coming off of her win in the Grade 1 Flower Bowl. She got a little cold in her form early in 2014, but she's rounding back in at the right time of the year.
Absolutely. Maybe she just needed to knock a little of the ring rust off. It took her a couple of runs, and she very well could have won her last 3 starts in a row. She might have been a little bit unlucky not to win the Diana or the Beverly D, and she broke through last time in the Flower Bowl, and she's consistent.
Any shot the day at the Spa, gets her own way out of the front end and is able to lope along for a mile and a quarter and win?
There doesn't appear to be a great deal of pace, and maybe she can get loose. I just don't see her getting a mile and a quarter under any circumstances.
Emollient, she's a strong contender. We know she likes this course. That's why Bill Mott continues to send her out to Southern California, and she comes off of a victory in the Grade 1 Rodeo Drive with Rosie in the saddle for Juddmont Farms. We move over to the DraftKings Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, a cool $1 million. Grade 1 company, Judy the Beauty at 5-2, as Wesley's horses ran very well yesterday in the 2-year-old turf events.
Yeah, and he broke through, and we knew it was a matter of time. And Judy the Beauty, he actually owns her as well as trains her, and that could be a huge payday.
We start with Artemis Agritera, though, another one that's made a brilliant impression in her training and schooling and everything else that goes along with this New York-bred daughter of Roman ruler for the Bromans.
And she just looks tremendous on the track. You called it right the other day when she was paddock schooling. You said she looked like a supermodel. Well, she certainly did.
Stone-tastic, one of the better workouts that we've seen leading up to the Breeders' Cup.
I thought she really got over this track well. Her work really caught my eye. She was going fast, but she was doing it the right way. And I think she basically said, you know what, I'm going to the lead. Everybody's going to have to catch me.
She's going to have to go fast. You know how these sprint races turn out. They have to go very, very quick to find themselves out on the front end. And Sweet Reason, what is it about this filly that makes you think that she can get back to some of the brilliant form that we saw earlier in the summer with the breaks that she's had in her training, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried a little bit about that. It's hard to win these races with any hiccups. But the thing that makes Sweet Reason so dangerous is she's a one-run sprinter, so you're going to get the pace that, Scott, you just alluded to. And she's a filly that will run inside of horses, take the kickback. She doesn't back off. A lot of horses get hit with the dirt in their face. They back off. She will run through anywhere, and she basically creates a really good trip for a horse that has to negotiate traffic. She is the package mentally and physically.
It's going to be a great race. You've got speed. You've got closers. Little Alexis, she's going to be coming from off the pace. So another challenging handicapping race, race number 6, the DraftKings Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. All right, when we come back here on our Breeders' Cup Saturday edition of Pursuit, we will take a look at the turf races starting down the hill, 6.5. Rich, any shot there should be concerned that this turf sprint could come off the hill with the crossover on the dirt?
No, I don't think so. And you saw the maintenance crew out there, and they had this track sealed very tight. And obviously they're concerned with the crossover. They don't want it to be slick. But now the sun's just popping out. We got a long ways to go before we get to that race. And they've done a great job handling this racetrack. I don't think there's any concern at all.
Clear skies to the west of us right now, so it looks like it's going to be an absolutely perfect afternoon in Southern California. All right, let's start with Silentio. Is this a tough draw for him to work from with Victor Espinoza aboard?
You know, it is. I think it's tougher on Renee's got zip on the one hole because she has speed. I think Silentio's going to get outrun, and he's going to be able to fold over right-handed before he has to come back left. Look at him here, paddock schooling. He looks great. I think it's going to intensify his closing kick, and he's run against the nuts. I mean, he's run against some of the best. I think he's going to be tough here.
Same can be said with Bobby's Kitten, and here's one of the angles that you've talked about so many times in discussing races down the hill. You love the turn back.
Love the turn back. And Bobby's Kitten, a horse that's been very ranked, kind of keen in those longer races. I think the hill, he'll get out-footed a little bit, he'll be off the bridle, and he'll be able to finish.
Home run Kitten for Dave Hoffman's, the son of Kitten's Joy. We know he likes the hill, and the bottom line is when this race takes place in Southern California, it's all about having experience.
Well, he's 2 for 2 on the hill. His work here was tremendous the other day. When I see a horse breezing, turn for home, switch to their right lead, and lower their head about 1.5 feet and actually get lower and attack the ground and finish, that's a horse telling you, I'm doing good right now, and Home Run Kitten's trained by the right guy. I think he's going to have a big say in the outcome.
I had a great conversation with Dave Hoffman's early yesterday morning here at Santa Anita, and I asked him about his horse. He says, you know, this horse is a good little horse, and he always tries down the hill. He was having fun with Marty Jones, who sends out Ambitious Brew. Marty hates having people talk about his horse, and he kept saying to Marty, he's like, hey, Marty, everybody's picking your horse, Marty. Oh, no, they're not talking about me. So you know the sense of humor that Dave has, and he's having fun this week. And for Marty Jones, Marty, a lot of people will be talking about your horse because he's been a bit of a buzz horse in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We move over to the Sentient Jet Breeders' Cup Juvenile, post time 5:43 Eastern Time. The post time favorite will be Daredevil, no question about it, for Todd Pletcher and Javier Castellano, and that is where we start. He's undefeated, owned by Let's Go Stable and Windstar Farm, a son of More Than Ready.
He was just so impressive in both his starts, but the Champagne, the 2.5 length victory, the margin of victory doesn't tell the story. He won with consummate ease, and I just think he's a horse that has the quality mentally. He came out on the track the first day here like he owned the joint. I like to see a two-year-old with that kind of confidence.
Carpe Diem, he doesn't lack in confidence either. He's a horse that's 2 for 2, and he shouldn't. He's a $1.6 million purchase for Stone Street Stable and Windstar Farm.
And a big, strong, young horse that obviously relished the 2 turns. Johnny Velasquez is very high on him. Don't know that he's going to get as soft a trip as he got at Keeneland in the Breeders' Futurity, but he certainly looked good on the racetrack.
Asmussen's horses are firing this week. That's all I can say. So use that when you're taking a look at Lucky Player in today's Juvenile.
And this horse made me like him watching him in the morning. He wasn't really on my radar, and the more I watched him train, and like you're saying, Steve's horses are running great, he really, really caught my attention, and I think he's a very live long shot.
Just looking on Twitter, Dave Grenning posting a photo. There's a broken water sprinkler or something out on the main course here at Santa Anita Park, so something we'll keep an eye on, and hopefully they can get that corrected in the day where we've received rain. Now some irrigation causing problems out on the main track. Moving over to the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf, Grade 1 company. You heard that Fanny Salmon, she likes Flintshire, best of the Euros coming into this year's renewal, and that's where we will start. Comes out of the Arc de Triomphe. How tough of a turnaround, though, is this for this colt?
Well, it is tough, and we've seen horses come out of the Arc and not have great success here in the past, so it is a concern, but he has looked really good here, and I think we've got to give him a long, hard look. This is a year where a lot of the Euros didn't jump off the racetrack and catch my attention like they did last year, but this is one of the ones that I thought really was doing well when he got here, and maybe that's signaling that the Arc didn't take too much out of him.
Son of Dan Silly, homebred for Juddmonte Farm. Main sequence, he's the best of the U.S. horses, no question, because all he's done is win Grade 1 since showing up on this soil.
3 for 3 in America, 3 Grade 1s. He difficult at the gate, loses Rajiv Maharaj. Now, obviously, he gets Hall of Famer Johnny Velasquez, which is always good, but when you don't know a horse that has peculiarities in the gate, it's a negative. You want a rider to have some familiarity, and I think losing Rajiv actually hurts.
and arguably the best story of the Breeders' Cup. Hardest Core, owned by Andrew Bentley Stables. They were hustled into the Grade 1 Arlington Million. They beat the best horses that showed up in America on that afternoon, including Magician, last year's Breeders' Cup Turf winner, and he looks great in his training.
He is a huge, big, imposing horse that absolutely looks phenomenal, and I think anybody who leaves him out is doing so at their own peril.
Mentioned the water main break. This is what's going on the course right now, about the half-mile pole on the main track. Get some buckets, folks. There's a drought in Southern California. We need to water some grass around here.
Wow, somebody needs to shut off the main valve just so we don't get another flood going on.
The rain's gone, but that water's not going anywhere, it looks like, for the time being. When we come back, more Breeders' Cup discussion. We'll move over to the Express Bet Sprint and the Breeders' Cup Mile. Like in 1991 at Churchill Downs, Sheikh Al-Badou became the one and only import to win the Express Bet Breeders' Cup Sprint. And the question this year, can another import by the name of Rich Tapestry do the exact same thing coming in from Hong Kong? The one thing that we do know, Richie, he likes this course. He ran it in 7-2 in winning the Grade 1 Santa Anita Sprint Championship.
Defeating Golden Sense, who came back to do pretty well yesterday in the Breeders' Cup Mile. I like the way this horse has trained since. I like the fact that he possesses speed, but he can sit in behind. He took the kickback well. He split horses. Very much a major player.
Fast Anna, one of the faster horses that we've seen work out here, period. Owned by Frank Calabrese, trained by Kathy Ritvo.
I think they have to take no prisoners. Let Fast Anna roll. His speed is his weapon. His work was scintillating here, and I think he could turn out to be the speed of the speed.
Two back, Johnny Rodham in the King's Bishop. The big beast gunned him down. The horse that is trained by Tony Dutrow, who's unfortunately on the sideline right now. This is another tough one. I'm partial to Private Zone. I think that the fact that he hasn't had as many starts as he did last year is really going to lay to his advantage. And the bottom line is that he is fast enough to win this race today.
He's definitely fast enough, but he is a bit quirky, and he needs the right kind of trip. So he's going to have a couple things go right for him. Obviously, Martin Pedrosa knows him so well, but I think he has to be forwardly placed, and I don't think he wants to be covered up and get a lot of dirt in his face. So he's going to have to work out some sort of a trip.
And Martin's been getting on him consistently, galloping, working. He's been doing it all for the connections of Private Zone. Let's move over to the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Mile, the setup race for the Breeders' Cup Classic. 7:40 Eastern Time is post time. Tornado 5-2 on the morning line, coming in off of a second place finish behind a horse named Charm Spirit at Long Shop back in mid-September.
And Tornado has looked tremendous training on the track. They popped him out of the gate the other day, and I understand the thought process behind it. As you can look at him here. He's just a big, strong horse. But
keyed up.
I think this was after he worked out of the gate, and I think they kind of lit his fuse there a little bit, and I'm hoping that it didn't rile him up too much. Because I understand you don't want to get shuffled back, particularly in a big field, but he really came off the track pretty worked up that day.
Obviously, he was 5th in this race last year. He is arguably the best miler on grass in Southern California.
He gets off cleanly. He could pull a Golden Sense possibly on this crew. You know, he's fast. He uses his speed to his advantage, and he might take no end of catching. He looks terrific.
Tom's Tribute ran him down in the Del Mar Mile. That was his last race back in late August. All intentions were to give him time leading up to this race, and we'll see Tom's Tribute. And Kigan in the Breeders' Cup Mile, he shows up in this role because I like him. And to me, I was sold on this horse by what Mark Casse said to me following his effort up at Woodbine in the Woodbine Mile, just saying that he ran a very good second, but overcame a good course, which he's not as good as running over, and he was beaten by Tradestorm that afternoon. He caught another good course at Keeneland in the Shadwell Turf Mile, and they show up here. They'll get a firm turf course. I really do like Kigan. I think he's a sleeper, and he'll be a huge price in the mile.
Well, he will be a huge price, but my question to you is, do you think this rain will have any effect on the course at all?
I can't imagine it will. Okay. I mean, it's going to dry out between now and 4:40. I mean, there's so much time between now and then.
Yeah, and it probably needed water.
No doubt. Yeah. No question about it. All right, when we come back here on Pursuit, we'll visit the social circle with Kate and Brad. She'll be discussing the rain, and we'll also hand out our Breeders' Cup Classic picks for BC 31.
to talk on the weather on the social circle as we start with a tweet from Jamie Osborne, who said it was a little wet this morning, so Toast of New York stayed inside, but we'll have more on that in a moment. It's not so wet right at the moment. Rosie Napravnik, of course, celebrating the #1 story on ESPN.com, this photo by Z. And then Ron Winchell, her boss, so to speak, issuing a special thank you for being the perfect match. We will miss you in 2015. And this from Zoe Cadman. Blue skies. The rain has stopped. It's cleared. It's lovely outside right now and looks like we are headed for nothing but blue skies with the best yet to come. Behind me, a couple notes. The track has been resealed. Now, they had opened it up, not completely, but the Heroes were out for a bit. Now they've resealed it when that rain continued, but now that the rain has stopped, we'll keep an eye on it. I suspect they will be opening it up soon enough once the dangers clear. Also, another note about the turf course, just to clarify, once again, it is listed good. The only races off the turf at this point are the first and third races. And as for selections so far, that water leak, by the way, has stopped too. So that water stopped too. All the water was flowing toward the outside. It was not hitting the racetrack too. Shared Belief, my pick. Earlier in the year, I'm sticking with him. I'm a believer. Jerry Hollendorfer believes he's better at 1.25 miles. That's good enough for me, Scott.
Well, I'm going to go with the horse that has looked the best this week at Santa Anita. In doing these shows on Pursuit of the Cup, Pursuit of the Crown, that's where I've gravitated towards and looking at the way that they've trained. And I'm going to stick with that game plan here in 2014 in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Cigar Street for Hall of Famer Bill Mott off of a win in the Homecoming Classic where he ran as fast as Shared Belief did in the Grade 1 Awesome. Again, even though Shared Belief lost so much ground in that race, this horse is coming into what should be the biggest race of his career based on looks. I look for Cigar Street, Richie, to give Bill Mott another classic winner.
Well, and he looks terrific. I can't argue with how he looks on the track, but I'm going to go to Tonalist. Maybe I'm a bit of a homer. He is East Coast based, and his trainer, Christophe Clement, it's his birthday today, so I think he's going to give himself a birthday present. Tonalist has looked sensational. Ever since Saratoga, it seems to me he's actually gotten better and better and better. His Jockey Club Gold Cup was a reversal in form coming from further up the pace. He showed more turn of foot. I really, really like Tonalist today. Christina, who do you like?
Richie, I'm right there with you. I take Tonalist in the Classic this year, a true 1.25 mile horse. I love the way he just gobbles up ground. He has that big, beautiful stride, and he's just sort of a throwback the way you look at him. He reminds me of the horses you see in the old oil paintings that you have back at home. Love everything about this horse. Hopefully, Christophe Clement can celebrate his birthday with a win in the Classic, and taking those blinkers off last time, as Richie mentioned, really, I think, gave the horse a couple more lengths of improvement, so I go with Tonalist. How about you?
I'm going, actually, with Cigar Street. I'm going with Bill Mott. He's already won 2 Breeders' Cup Classics, and he upset with Drosselmeyer, if you remember that year. He also won with Cigar, but Cigar Street, this horse, not only is he a sheets play, he looks like he's sitting on a career best performance, but also you watch him train in the morning, he looks like he's sitting on a career best performance. The Classic has been won by an older horse in 10 of the past 12 runnings, so I'm going with Cigar Street, boys.
See, great minds think alike, me and Millie on Cigar Street. I like that. I like the fact that she likes who I'm on board with in the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's it for us, Rich, but we've got plenty to keep you busy here on HRTV over the course of, the next, 9 hours on Breeders' Cup Saturday. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.